All right, Aaron Antis, I want to ask you this question, and I want you to answer the question with 100% clarity and honesty, as you always do here.
Yes, sir.
How long have you been self-employed?
Like 22 years.
So if you're out there today, folks, and you want to become self-employed, I know it can be scary, it can be unnerving. James, how long have you been self-employed? You're an attorney. How long have you worked for yourself?
October 2011, so about 10 years.
So if you're out there today and you want to take the jump, you want to become self-employed, this is a great show for you as we interview Blake and Jacob. Their names are Blake and Jacob from the Be Your Own Boss podcast. These people have worked with big-time companies like IBM, Visa, Adobe, Comcast. They've been featured on media outlets like NPR, the Harvard Business Review, and all the many other big-time media outlets that you are familiar with, such as Forbes, Inc., Entrepreneur, and many more. All this and more on today's special edition of the Thrive Time Show on your radio and podcast download. If you've ever wanted to become self-employed, today is the show for you.
Get ready to enter the Thrive Time Show.
We started from the bottom, now we hit. We started from the bottom and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we hit. We started from the bottom, now we hit.
We started from the bottom, now we're on the top. Teaching you the systems to get what we got. Colin Dixon's on the hooks, I break down the books. Z's bringing some wisdom and the good looks. As the father of five, that's why I'm alive. So if you see my wife and kids, please tell them hi. It's CNC up on your radio. And now 3, 2, 1, here we go.
We started from the bottom, now we hit. We started from the bottom and we'll show you how to get.
Yes, and yes, Thrive Nation, we are in the air everywhere. And if you're tuning in for the first time, you're going to love today's show because today's guests have worked with brands like IBM, Visa, Adobe, Comcast, and they've been featured on media outlets such as NPR, Harvard Business Review, Forbes, Inc., Entrepreneur, and many others. And because they've agreed to lower their standards, Blake and Jacob Morgan are on the Thrive Time Show. Blake and Jacob, welcome on to the Thrive Time Show. How are you guys?
Hi.
Thanks for having us.
Love that.
I love the intro music.
Hey, you know what? Thank you guys for allowing us to trick you onto being on today's show. I promise this will be the worst show you've ever been on, right, Aaron? But then it gets better because once we set sort of a basement level, every future show will be
Start low.
We start low.
Yeah,
okay,
just
so
move
this will be the worst show you're ever on, but then future shows will be great by comparison. So guys, let me ask you this. How did you two first meet each other?
Do you want to share the story?
Yeah, I had been living in New York City for 5 years, and I had been dating a lot of Peter Pan types. Never want to grow up.
Oh.
And then I convinced my boss to let me go to this conference. First he said no, and I begged him. I said, please, can I go? So I went, and here's this young, cute guy in a sea of old men. And then I moved to San Francisco. That's basically.
We met at a conference in Kennesaw, Georgia, in line as we were getting ready to get a bagel during the break at the conference.
Really? And what was the bagel move? Did you say, excuse me, Blake, can I pay for that? What was your move?
So first of all the food was free, so we didn't actually have to pay for anything. And I think as we were getting in line to grab like the snacks during the break, I think Blake was the one who actually started talking to me, if I remember correctly.
I was really nervous, and Jacob told me he didn't notice because he thought I looked really hot in my gray suit, which at the time I did. That was 11 years ago. we just had so much in common. It was just uncanny. And those moments in life, you either dive in or you regret it your whole life. So we both dove in, and we're 11 years later. Bunch of two kids, two dogs, right? Businesses, and now we're always together.
Where do you guys call home, Blake? What part of the country do you live in?
We're in the Bay Area, but we're looking to cheat on the Bay Area together and possibly move. We don't know where yet, but yeah, we've been here for about 10 years.
Now, Blake, did you get? My understanding is you got laid off from your job at a Fortune 100 company and then decided to become your own boss. Am I getting that correct?
I clearly remember when my boss called me, and he hated me and I hated him, and we both knew that, but he called me and told me I was laid off, and I cried. And I had slowly been watching Jacob rise to some business enterprise fame. I had a front row seat to his success. I would travel with him, see him speak, sometimes speak along with him, but still had a corporate job. And I really felt like I never wanted to allow anyone else to control my life or my destiny ever again. And that was the last straw. And that day I decided I would never have a boss ever again because it wasn't the first time I had been fired or laid off. And I just was sort of an oddball. I just wasn't fitting in anywhere. And I realized that was such a beautiful moment because now I have a 7-figure business by myself without Jacob. And together now we're building something new with this BYOB podcast. We're teaching others how to be their own boss and free themselves from the shackles of working for someone else.
So Blake, what was your first business that you started?
My first business was a social media company.
No, even before that, didn't you wanted to do like a food blog?
Yeah, I wanted to be a food blogger because I love to eat and I love to cook and feed people, and that was a total disaster. Then I went through a string of failures. I wanted to
interesting discoveries.
I wanted to help women with self-esteem because that was something I cared about, and then I realized that was not a business plan. And then I started doing social media consulting, and we all know what happened to social media consultants. And so that's basically that. Those were the first companies. But I always tell people, if you don't know what you're good at, what keeps coming back to you again and again? And for me, it was this topic of customer service. People kept asking me, speak about it, write about it. I didn't want to do it. Then I was hired at Intel, the Fortune 100 company, to do it there. Still didn't want to do it. But then I realized, oh my God, the world needs information about how to be customer centric. And that turned into a 7-figure speaking business, something I didn't want to do, but kept coming back to me.
Now, Jacob, what was your first entrepreneurial endeavor?
Oh my goodness. The first one was, so give people some context. My last job was around 15 years ago. And one of the last jobs I had was when a CEO made me go get him coffee. And after that, that was kind of the last straw. So my first entrepreneurial endeavor after that was learning about affiliate marketing and search engine optimization 15 years ago. I had no idea what an entrepreneur was. So I was literally, at the time, while I still had this full-time job, I was Googling things like how to become an entrepreneur, how to make money online. And I was just finding anything I could find. And that's when I first learned about affiliate marketing and search engine optimization. And that was what I first tried to do and failed at miserably 15 years ago.
So, Blake, I want to get your take on this. It seems as though whenever we interview top entrepreneurs on this show, whether it be a Wolfgang Puck or a Damon John or a John Lee Dumas or John Maxwell, whoever we have on the show, household name or not, they always tell us they kind of defined what they thought would work. Then they acted, and then they measured the results and had to refine the process along the way. There's kind of a rhythm to it. You define what you think is going to work, you act, you measure the results, and then you refine that. You two have now decided to team up to do this podcast. What, I guess, motivated you guys to start the Be Your Own Boss podcast? And what have you learned as you've attempted to launch this and get this going?
Well, since you asked me, I would love to help. But I noticed 3 of the 4 people you mentioned all have the word John in their name. John Lee Dumas.
John Maxwell.
Damon John.
Wow.
I was like, man, that's a lot of Johns.
It's impressive.
I've been begging Jacob to teach people he's like a freak. He's like a master marketer. Nobody helped him, taught himself everything he knew. When I met him, he was in clothes that were too big and he had a dorky backpack, and now he's like a baller. I
still wear sweatpants and clothes that are too big.
And no, I mean, he's like a little genius. He's just really resourceful and taught himself everything through YouTube, and kind of like the Rachel Hollis story in a way So Jacob, I've been begging him to put all of what he's learned into content to teach other people how to be your own boss, how to be a speaker. And he hasn't done it. I was pregnant, and I mean, I think you just wanted to do it, but you wanted me to do it with you for some reason.
It was last year during COVID, and you were basically saying, "Oh, now is a great time to do it."
We started this before COVID.
Did we?
In December of 2019.
Right before COVID, yeah.
Now, you guys, with your show, if people tune into your show for the first time, is it a daily show? Is it a weekly show? Is it a biannual show? How often do you put out shows?
We put out episodes twice a week. One episode is usually a full podcast episode where we either share content ourselves or interview a guest. And then we have a second episode that goes up in the middle of the week, which is more like a mini 5 to 10 minute segment, which is around something tactical and specific that an entrepreneur can learn how to do.
So, Aaron Antis, you run Oklahoma's largest home building company, and you're an entrepreneur.
Yes.
And I'm sure you have a lot of questions here for today's guests. We got Blake and Jacob here. Their show is the new show is called Be Your Own Boss. It's a podcast.
Yeah.
And so, guys, we're going to move into the lightning round. Now, the lightning round here, Blake, just to prepare yourselves, and Jacob, emotionally, just to prepare yourselves emotionally, this is the round where we usually have a lot of guests. They just hang up on us. I don't like the question. They're gone. Like, what happened? Hello? Are you there? Hello? So if Aaron asks you a question in the lightning round that you find to be offensive, if you hear the click, that's how we know it didn't go well. That's just kind of the rules to the game. So, Aaron, what question do you have for Blake and or Jacob?
Sure. Well,
Jacob.
Earlier, Blake, you mentioned confidence, for women to have confidence. And I find that for entrepreneurs in general, like when you're first launching out, you lack confidence probably because you haven't had experience that's given you positive feedback or something. But what is like one of the things that you really see in the confidence area where you can really help somebody?
I think for people to feel confident, they have to be in a situation where they're looking at the buyer or the audience, whatever it is, or the listeners of the podcast. This sounds terrible, but it's really a sense of, I don't need you. Like, if this doesn't go well, like, I'm going to survive. And I think once you hit that moment, it's like when you want to ask somebody out at a bar, if that person can sense that you're so confident that even if, like, they say no to you, like, you're going to have a ton of other people to go out with, like, they're going to say yes. So, and I think this is a quote from a movie. What's the Vince Vaughn movie?
Wedding Crashers?
No.
Swingers,
The
probably.
one- Say it again?
Swingers?
Yeah, where he's like, you got to go up to the hottest thing in the bar and, you know, you got to have a straight face and be confident. So I really have figured out that, and I think at my age, I'm 36, I figured out this confidence of like, I don't really need you, because I feel that success doesn't come from one person or one opportunity. It's that resiliency. It's that Rocky Balboa. It's not how many times you get hit, it's how many times you get back up. And it's that resiliency factor that just makes you so confident. Like, even if you say no to me, I'm going to keep going and being successful no matter what.
I love it. Yeah.
A little confidence pro tip. Okay, so now, Sean, you are a business consultant. You can ask Jacob any question you want. If you want to mispronounce his name, that's Jacob. Sean, what question would you have for Jacob, commonly also referred to as Jacob? What question do you have there, Sean?
I'm always asking entrepreneurs about how much they prepare just on a daily basis for the things that they do. So maybe like with your podcast, how much do you prepare beforehand, or do you just freestyle it?
Well, there is some preparation. Well, of course, without any preparation, things are usually going to fail. There's some preparation in terms of what are the things that we want to talk about, what do we want to explore, what are the main takeaways that we want to get across, but nothing scripted. I don't even script the speeches that I give. I don't script a lot of the stuff, but I do have a set of key points of things that I want to do. So from that regard, there is a little bit of preparation that goes in, but it's not to the point of being overly prepared where you're reading something. It needs to be natural and conversational, very much like this show.
So if you're out there, folks, you're listening today and you say, you know, I kind of want to be self-employed at some point in my life, I encourage you. These are I talk about this on the show often. I encourage one of the three following paths that you would take. One, intern in the industry that you think you'd want to work in. I can't tell you how many people have told me, I want to be in broadcast journalism. I want to be a social media marketer. I want to be a podcaster. Sean, you see that. People shadow me even today. People say, I want to be a podcaster. And then they go, are you doing 9 interviews today? I mean, people all the time, they want to shadow you. Aaron, I'm sure you've seen this. James, you've seen this in the office. People from all over the country come and they say, I want to be a podcaster. And they go, I want to do what you do. And then they shadow and they go, you did 9 interviews today? And then or people want to be a realtor. And they go, you mean you have to show houses that people don't buy sometimes? People want to sell cars, and they go, you mean you got to be there till it closes? Or?
You know what John Maxwell says about that?
What does John Maxwell say about that?
He says, everybody comes up to me, they say, I want to do what you do. And he goes, great. Do you want to do what I did, though?
Yeah, so I think the internship move is a powerful move. A second move is you can expose yourself to entrepreneurship on a daily basis through audio. That's why this show, Be Your Own Boss, I think is a great place to listen to. You learn some ideas. Third thing, I totally recommend this, and people never take me up on this idea, but it works. If you write a book and you cold call entrepreneurs and say, hey, I'm writing a book on how to become an entrepreneur, and I'd love to interview you for my book, for a chapter of my book, just 20 minutes of your time, I'd love to ask you. You wouldn't believe how many super successful people are like, well, if you're writing a book, I would be honored. And then all of a sudden you get that meeting. They got to write some stuff down to write a book, but it's a powerful move. I want to get Blake's take on this. Blake, for someone out there who's thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, they started their own business 10 years ago, they failed. Started another business 8 years ago, they failed. Now they've got a job for 8 years. The job they're at's kind of soul-sucking, but at least they're not going to fail. What advice would you have for them?
Yeah, I think that unfortunately there's so much bad advice out there that people are really taking. And the worst is 3 words. Follow your passion.
Oh, yeah.
And the truth is what I told you before, Clay, that it's not only about your passion, it's what the market needs. I wasn't passionate about customer service. Who's passionate about somebody yelling at you and taking all their frustration out on you? That's not a passion of mine. But I found interesting angles to this topic that was evolving, and the market needed content about this topic. They needed information. I sell information products. So it's not about following your passion. And unfortunately, this lie, people really take seriously. And so that's why I think people are failing, because they really need to understand that you're not an entrepreneur, you're a problem solver. And if you're not solving a problem, then you're not in business.
Okay, James.
Yes.
You're an attorney from New York.
Yes, I am.
Essentially, you specialize in asking rude, offensive questions that end conversations. What questions would you have for Jacob, or question would you have for Jacob?
I have a question.
Jacob is how you mispronounce it.
Jacob and Blake. Okay. So your parents, I'm a parent too. You're entrepreneurs. I have an entrepreneurial flair as well. And I had a friend of mine in law school who was a very, very good speaker. He would get up and speak at dinners. He'd get up and speak, in front of people he didn't know. He'd get up and speak at parties. And I said, what's up with that? And he said both of his parents were professors, and they got him on the stage and had him speak at home all the time when he was a kid. So it just came very, very natural to him. And he had a Holocaust survivor as a grandmother at his wedding. And he spoke at his own wedding, and he delivered this speech and she was there at it. And there was not a dry eye at any single table. And he did such a great job. So as a parent, what are you doing for your children to groom them to have this, speaking ability, or to have this entrepreneurial sort of flair, or are you not doing that?
Well, we have 2 kids, the 9-month-old and the 4.5-year-old. So the 9-month-old, I make him stand in front of a mirror every day and practice.
Oh, so good.
Yeah. I duct tape his little feet so they stand straight, and he practices. No, kidding. Obviously,
I've got a visual of that. That's
yeah.
terrifying.
No, I mean, obviously not much that we're doing for the 9-month-old. For the 4.5-year-old, it's really, and I don't know, maybe she'll be a speaker, maybe not. I think the important thing to create that entrepreneurial spirit for young kids is to not punish them for their mistakes or for failures. And so whenever our daughter tries something, I always encourage her, even if you don't know the answer, take a guess. It's okay if you make a mistake. What did you learn from that? And I think that's a very important mindset to have. Also, when she speaks to us, I always encourage her to speak up. Sometimes she gets a little shy and she'll use like a baby voice. And I say, no, you're a big girl, talk like a big girl. So really encouraging her to express herself, to share her ideas, to not want to shrink herself, to not be shy, and to have that sense of confidence that she has a right to speak just as much as anybody else, including a grown-up. And I'd like to think that that's working. At the dinner table, we go over our highs and lows. We ask her, what she's doing at school.
So high and lows, the high point of your day and the worst part of your day.
Yep.
Yesterday, she hit a kid in the head with a block.
Is that the high
That
point?
was all of our lows.
Oh, I thought that was a high point. Sorry.
No.
Teaching your kid how to become a Viking 101. That's the high point. Now, Blake, I want to ask you this. I will give you the final word here. You guys have so much great knowledge, and we have so little time. But I do want you to I will give you the final word, and I'll tell you, folks, if you're out there and you have not checked out their podcast, there, folks, I encourage you to check out their podcast. Be Your Own Boss. You see, Blake here, she's worked with companies like Comcast, Allstate, Accor Hotels, Accenture, Adobe, Cisco, Ericsson, Verizon, a lot of big companies. She has some wisdom here. What is the final message, Blake, that you want to share with the listeners out there? I'll give you the mic before you drop the mic. What's the final principle or message that you want to share with our almost 1 million listeners per week at this point?
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's all valuable. It's all valuable. The failures, the late nights, the stress, the right now it's so hard for people with COVID. Like, life is just really hard. It's freaking depressing. We're all walking around with diapers on half our faces or duct tape, whichever visual you prefer. Life is hard, but you know what? It's all valuable. And often the stories, when I tell stories and I speak, the things that people remember are really the stories, and the stories I get only from the failures or from the things that I participated in where I didn't know if there would be a return. It's really from the exploring.
Yeah.
So it's all valuable. Even when you feel like you're at your lowest low, record. I've been doing voice memos in my phone so I don't forget this very challenging period of my life with a COVID baby. And it's a hard time for both, for me and Jacob. So I record voice memos just to remember what's going on, because everything you use as an entrepreneur, you'll use all of the challenges, and you'll really use them as learning moments. At the time when I was laid off, it was very painful and I was very ashamed and embarrassed. Now I love talking about how I was laid off because I have the success story, but the wound has to heal a bit. But the point is, the things that feel so painful, like failures, you're going to use it in a matter of time. You just have to know that it's all good. It's all valuable.
Blake, Jacob, I appreciate you guys so much for joining us today. What's your website one more time there, Jacob? What's the website where people can go to learn more about you guys?
Sure. The podcast is byobpodcast.com. And as you mentioned, that is Be Your Own Boss.
Or, folks, if you want to mispronounce it, that's Biob. Biob.
Yeah.
That's just something.
From how do you say my name again, Clay?
Jacob. It comes from a deeper throat region where you're
The phlegm region.
Yeah, the phlegmage. That's what really is appealing. You want
I'm gonna have it as a ringtone whenever I get phone calls. That's what I want it to sound like.
Beautiful. I appreciate you so much for being here. You guys have a great rest of your day, and no making out until we hang up. Okay.
All right. Thanks for
See you
having
guys.
us.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, Aaron, before we wrap up today's show, I did want to throw out a quick disclaimer for the listeners out there. If you do have COVID-19 or you want to have COVID-19, and you want to make sure that you are treated effectively, right now, if anybody will just go to meehanmd.com, that's meehanmd.com. You go there. There are doctors now, folks, in 50 states.
50.
We have doctors in all 50 states that are willing to treat you with the 100% effective COVID-19 treatments and therapies. You can also go to budesonideworks.com. Every time I say budesonide works, people are like, bromicide? No, it's budesonide. Bromide? No, budesonide. Budesonide? No, it's budesonide. I mean, it's always like some variation, but it's budesonide works.com. budesonide works.com. You go there right now. 100% effective COVID-19 treatments and therapies right there, folks. Yes. If you want to be up to the task of running around without a mask, I'm telling you, go there. And then go to timetofreeamerica.com, and you can learn the truth about the falsely inflated COVID-19 models, the PCR tests that are falsely calibrated. There's no need to operate with the spirit of fear in this year.
True.
And if you want to get the really hot editions of the Thrive Time Show, you can also go to rumble.com.
Rumble.
You go on rumble.com. And you go there, you type in Thrive Time Show, and you're going to find some unfiltered, incredible stuff right there at rumble.com.
Rumble.
And now, with any further ado, let's end this show with a boom. So here we go. 3, 2, 1, boom! By the way, if you want to attend our next in-person Thrive Time Show workshop, and I know you do, go to thrivetimeshow.com and then click on the conferences button, thrivetimeshow.com. Click on the conferences button, and there you can meet Lynn Wood, General Flynn will be there, and Vandersteel, and so many other great American patriots. Go to thrivetimeshow.com and click on the conferences button to book your tickets to the April 16th and 17th in-person 2-day interactive Thrive Time Show conference. It's going to be mind-blowing, game-changing. You're going to love it. It's going to change your life. Get your tickets today by going to thrivetimeshow.com and clicking on the conferences button.